going on, everybody? It's November 1st, 2017. Happy Hump Day. And I'm hitting you guys with another daily dose of knowledge. So, subject matter for today is going to be focusing on going over finances and also another mix of things with talking about relationships, probably break it up into different segments. But jumping into things, last night I feel really proud. I took some time to sit down and reevaluate my finances, kind of sit down and figure out what my expenses, my liabilities, what my assets, what my income, like come up with all these numbers very specifically so I can start working on my financial map, roadmap, plan, better said, so I can focus on continuing building my wealth. And it's been a while since I actually did that. And I don't know about y'all, but I know that there was times where I would have some type of anxiety worrying about, am I spending too much? Looking at my finances and seeing like, my bank account, I just got paid. And after all my bills auto-drafted, I'm like, damn, I'm left with like a couple bucks. Like, damn, you just start feeling like, shit, nigga, I don't want to look at this fucking account to remind me how broke I am. And it's like, for you to stop feeling like that and for me to stop living for, each paycheck to come around, I'm like, you got to start making your steps. Now, mind you, I started doing this a while back and I just fell off for a while, and so I jumped back into it. And I felt like it'd be a good time to share with you guys some of the things that I do to manage my finances, and hopefully it can be something that resonates with you as well. So, jumping into things, one, I ended up buying me a notepad, small little notepad, probably about this big. The brand that I buy is called Moleskine, and it's a really good brand. Smaller notebooks, you don't have to buy a big spiral one, or you can buy a spiral notebook if you want to. But whatever you need to be able to write down your finances, just get you something where you can write your stuff down. What I tend to do is I break down my finances to expenses, liabilities, and my income. So on my expenses page, my expenses are usually things that I am not contractually obligated to pay, but they're just extra things that I pay for. So for instance, I have a Beachbody account where I pay something monthly for getting my shakes sent to me and all of these other things that I get through Beachbody. Also paying for my Apple Music and for Spotify, paying for my son's ABC Mouse accounts, and paying for his athletic teams that he play for each month. Like, those are expenses because those are things that you can drop at any point in time and not have to worry about breaking a contract. So I will list those out on one page and I'll calculate out what that total is. And I do it on a monthly basis. So I'll say, monthly, I'll pick all those things. I'll write out what their balances are so I can get a snapshot of this is what I usually pay for my expenses. My liabilities are things that happen to be finances that you have contractual or legal agreements to. So when you think about your car loan, you think about your credit card, your mortgage, a personal loan if you have anything of that sort, child support if you pay anything like that. And I write out those liabilities because those are going to be things that that's going to be tied to you, period. And then after I write out those two pages, and I do these on separate pages so I can kind of keep it neat and delineate between things instead of cluttering up a page with all the info. Next, I will write out my income, and it's usually me just seeing hey, what do I get paid bi-weekly? And I do it two ways. I'll assess my income off of my before tax, and then I also assess my income after tax. And what I do after that is I take what I get after taxes and I break it up into the 80-10-10 rule, to where I allocate 80% of my after-tax income for my expenses and liabilities. So combining those both together, and I'll say, hey, I'm using 80% of my after-tax income to pay for these things. I'll then take 10% of my money and I'll focus on putting that inside of a savings account for a rainy day fund. just so every time I end up hitting emergency, or like a couple of times I was laid off from jobs in the past, I had a nest egg that was chilling on the side where I could just quickly roll over to it and be able to continue on. And it's always saved, myself, Lacey, Eli, whenever things would come up, because we had some little bit of money on the side. Got a little bit harder to do that in the last few years while Lacey was going to school, but it was still easy to put it out of sight, out of mind. And then lastly, the last 10% that I take out of my after tax income is putting it into what I call forever money. Forever money just alludes to money that I'm putting into the stock market to have grow for me. And my goal that I set for myself is trying to build up my forever money to where the interest that I get back off of that is high enough for me to be able to take that interest and use it to pay for other things, to where that balance never depletes. It just continues to grow. So a good example is I have a mentor who has been great with meeting with me multiple times a year, and have conversations on the weekly where we talk about finances, and he helps me kind of stay focused and on track for what I'm trying to do. And that helps me realize that whenever you understand how to be financially literate, money becomes less scary. It becomes less of a factor that you worry about. And I find myself making my money work for me instead of me working for my money. And that's a huge thing I would love for people to take away from this conversation, if anything, today is I want people to take a different perspective of how they address money, because seeing how our parents may have interacted with it, you may have had parents who were fiscally literate to where they could talk to you about these things and help you get a clearer picture about how you want to set up your financial roadmap. And in that case, you listening to this is probably either reiterating what you're saying, or maybe you have some advice that you can offer me as well. But for the other individuals who I know, we all kind of grew up in an environment to where we continuously had people just say, if I had more money, then I can do this. If I get a pay raise, I can do this. If I get more funds, if I hit the lottery, if I do any of these things, it'll make my life easier. And it's like, no, you being in control of your finances and you understanding how you manage your money is going to be the thing that sets you free. So, my little rant's over, I get off my soapbox. But getting back to the 80-10-10 rule. So something for most of you cats who heard me say that I put it in stocks and investments, a lot of folks may be like, oh shit, well that might be difficult for me to learn to get into. I'm going to tell you right now, motherfucker, calm down, okay? Calm your tits, or your ass, or something else if you're a guy. It's not that fucking hard. Okay, so let me tell you. There's different apps out there that can help you ease into investing. One app that I use happens to be named Acorns, and I got reacquainted with Acorns last night, honestly, to get back into getting my portfolio built back up. But basically what Acorns is an application that you can download. You can link it to your bank account, and you can link it to your debit card. And from there, it will allow you to, each time you make a purchase, it'll round your purchase up to the nearest dollar. It'll take your difference in change, and it'll add that to your brokerage account, or your account that you use for investing is your brokerage account. It'll put that money in there, and it'll allow you to start investing just off of those cents that you accrue. And already, just imagine if you were going to stores still using cash, and every time you paid with cash, the change that you got, you're just throwing it in a little jar, for your rainy day fund or something. Like, yo, here's my change jar. Now you're taking that change jar and you're dumping it into an account, and you're letting that grow and start working for you. And right now, those small incremental amounts of change don't seem like much, but as you continue to do that throughout a year, you'll find that it builds up a lot more for you, and it's going to do a lot more in the long run for you. Along with that, the money that I'm taking for my 10% of my after-tax income, I'm adding that to my Acorns account as well. So having my change get thrown in there, along with me putting 10% out of each check into that, you start seeing that things compound pretty quickly. And like my mentor tells me, it took him a few years to get this to this point, but it was a nice feeling back in the day when I was doing investments, to where I saw my first interest check that was around $600, $700, because I'd been doing it incrementally for over 3 years at that point. And it was nice to be able to say, like, you know what? If I wanted to, my interest is giving me enough now to where I can use this to pay my rent a couple times without having to take anything out of my paycheck to pay it. And I started thinking about, I want to get me a new car. I can use my interest to where my balance is not depleting, because I'm not taking out of my balance saying, oh, hey, I saved up $5,000. Now I'm taking out $3,000 for a down payment. Now I'm left with $2,000. I'm saying, hey, you have X amount of money. The interest you get off of that is $3,000. And you look at it and your principal stays the same because you still have that money there and you just took the interest and used that to purchase something. And I started thinking about the people around me that I hang out with who were very financially stable and who have control over their life a lot more, to where they basically have the autonomy to say, hey, I'm going to work at this job. Or if something happens, they're like, hey, fuck this job because I have something that's helping me pay my bills already. I don't have to be beholden to a company. That's where I was like, I see now the pattern to where these individuals do that same thing. Their interest helps them pay off other expenses and things that they have. That's something that a lot of us aren't taught to think about because it forces you to have discipline. And that discipline word is shit we hate to hear, because discipline is said whenever we need to be disciplined about how we eat so we can lose weight. We got to have discipline to get up and go to the gym every day to work out. We got to have discipline whenever you're in a committed relationship and you don't want to interact with another partner outside of the one that you're currently with. Like, that discipline word can fuck with a lot of people, you know? So when you hear it, it's like, yo, Lou, fuck you. I don't want to be disciplined. I hear you. I don't want to do it either. But it's a great sense of pride knowing that you have that control over your life to set it up the way that you want it to be. So I would recommend for you folks to take a good time period to sit down and just look over your finances. Look at your income, like your checks. If you get paid bi-weekly, then you look at your check amount that you get before you spend on anything else, multiply that by 2, and then you just calculate what 80% of that monthly take-home income is, and you calculate out what 10% of that going to be, and then that'll tell you what your numbers are. And then from there, sit down and calculate and add up your expenses and add up your liabilities, and then add your expenses and liabilities together and see, hey, is this totaling 80% of my income? And if you find yourself being under 80% of your expense budget that you have from your income, then good for you. That means that you even have extra money that you could be throwing into your forever money, or that's extra money for you to know that you'll be able to spend, like on extra groceries or, that gym membership that you said you can't afford, because now you have something that's bringing it to your attention of what you can do. And then that 10% that you find is also going to help you realize what you could be putting up each month into your savings for both your rainy day and for your future, to make sure you start setting up yourself financially to be where you need to be. Now, if you find out that your expenses happen to be more than what that 80% is, you don't have to panic. Instead, you can take some time to now really evaluate, hey, do I really need to spend all of this money like I do at Starbucks? Do I need this membership that I use probably once a month that I'm not really engaging with as much? It'll make you do a real gut check. And I know that reality check is something we don't want to do, but I would love for you guys to do it, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you're starting to work and set yourself up financially to be happy. I want all of my people who I know, no matter what color you are, don't matter if you're family to me or not, I want people to succeed, and I want you guys to have the tools and have the base knowledge to start working and building up from there. Now, on that note, I will say that a couple books that I would like to recommend for you guys to check out, just to get an opportunity to learn a little bit more about finances itself and some of the tools that I've used and books that I've read to get better. One is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Phenomenal book that I got on audiobook, and I have a physical copy as well. I like it so much. But that book happens to be written by Robert T. I think it's Kiyosaki. And it goes over explaining the perspective of a man growing up having a rich dad and a poor dad, and seeing the differences between the two, and him being able to learn how to navigate the financial world based off of having those two fathers teach him. And another book that I love to read, and I may be clobbering this name right now because I don't have it on me, but it's called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's written by, I believe the name is George Clayson. So take a look into those two books. The Richest Man in Babylon is more of a short book, quick tale over some of the financial truths that whenever we read it, we realize, yo, this is common sense. But since it's out of sight, out of mind, and we don't manage our finances by the daily, no pun intended, we realize we kind of get out of touch with these things of common sense. So, The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clayson, and also Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert T. Kiyosaki. Those are two great books to start on your financial journey of bettering and feeling more empowered and getting knowledge for you to make those steps to secure the bag, secure your future. So I'm gonna hop on another subject and I'll conclude this particular video over the finances. But as usual, you can find me on YouTube, Lewis Daily. Probably have the link posted somewhere how you got to this in the first place. Subscribe so you can always be updated and be aware when I post out new videos. Wink, wink. Also, you can catch me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is LouisFrench25. You can always catch me at Facebook at Lewis Daily III. You can also catch me on Twitter, which is, I forgot what my Twitter handle is. I'm pretty sure I call it Louis French as well, but I don't know because I'm never really on Twitter. But if I see that I have more people following me, then I'll get on Twitter and start tweeting too. But outside of that, man, thank you guys for listening. I hope you have a great day, and as always, peace and love. Peace.